Hello everybody, my name is Katrina and today I have my March reading wrap-up. So these are all of the books I read in March and my thoughts on them. I read a total of 10 books in the month of March, which I'm really excited about. Towards the beginning of the month I participated in a couple of readathons, which definitely helped to push me up to that mark as well, and I did put up a reading vlog. I forgot to edit the other one. Oops, my bad. Link down below. But I'm also really excited because this month I finished a book that I've been reading for over a year. 376 days to be exact. Ramble time over, let's get on to the books. The first book I'm going to be talking about is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, the third and final book in the Grisha trilogy. This one I rated 3 out of 5 stars. This series, I didn't fall in love with it. I didn't really expect to either. One of the main things I couldn't get past with this series is the love interest Mal. From the get-go, I really didn't like him. I didn't think the relationship between Mal and Alina was entirely healthy. There's a lot of pressure that they put on each other and they didn't seem like they worked together. So Mal's presence just forever irritates me. So that's a major reason why I struggled to read these books, because I really didn't care about Mal and I didn't care about anything that was going on between him and Alina. With Ruin and Rising being the last book in a series, obviously there is a major conflict that goes on. During the climax of this book, I was hooked. I was on the edge of my seat. I wanted to know what was going to happen. But aside from that, the story just wasn't holding my attention for pretty much the remainder of the story. There are a few points where the action does pick up and I was starting to enjoy it more, but apart from that, I found it a little bit dull, a little bit boring. So while I was reading it, I just kind of wasn't caring about it, I guess. So that's why I got a 3 stars. Ida by Alison Evans. This one has a really cool concept. So it's about a girl who's able to shift between alternate universes, and basically if she makes a decision that she doesn't like or something bad is about to happen, she shifts to another universe where that thing has not happened. Things are going fine and dandy until Ida sees a see-through doppelganger. So it's someone who looks exactly like her, and she starts to question her abilities and if she has complete control over it. This book also has an incredible amount of diversity. The main character is biracial, she's bisexual, and we also have many trans and gender fluid characters. All of the main and secondary characters in here are incredibly diverse, and I love that aspect about it because I don't think I've read many, if any, books with gender fluid characters in it, which was really awesome to see. And as I mentioned, the concept of this is so cool, but I don't think it was executed perfectly. The main issue that I had with this book was that things weren't explained enough, or things weren't explained very clearly. So this is relating to some of the characters and their backstories and things going on in their home life that are alluded to but not made very clear. But more importantly, things aren't completely explained in relation to the ability to shift between universes and the constraints of it and how it entirely affects things. As you can see, I tabbed this quite a lot and I filled up quite a few index cards, and the majority of this is me asking questions because I don't completely understand what was going on. So I was left feeling quite confused for a lot of the book. I also thought the ending was a little bit abrupt. So this isn't a huge book, it's relatively short. I think that I would have enjoyed this more if it had been fleshed out a little bit more and there was more time given to explaining how everything worked and the mechanics of it. I would have liked to be able to wrap my head around everything a little bit more. Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody. This was sent to me by the publisher, so I will be doing a review on this one, so I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail here, but this book follows 2 main characters. It is dual perspective. On the one hand, we have N, whose mother has gone missing, and in order to find her, she needs to travel to the city of Sin, where no one goes to without coming out uncorrupted. And on the other hand, we have Levi Glazier, who is a con man, and he's wrapped up in this scam. Levi is N's only lead for finding her mother. So these 2 characters and their stories and their worlds collide, and it's about them going on adventures, picking up scents and following leads and trying to find N's mother. And they go through casinos and cabarets. It's such a rich setting. I've just never really read a book in this kind of setting before, so I found that really interesting, and the story itself I loved. I thought it was so captivating. I also grew to really enjoy a lot of the characters. However, towards the end of the book, I thought that some of the characters acted out of character. They did things that didn't seem to fit who they were as a person, or their reactions shocked me because it didn't seem characteristic of them. Similarly with this book, I actually had some trouble wrapping my head around a lot of the world building and the magic system in here. Things aren't completely explained, so again, I had a lot of questions with this one. There is a lot of mystery in this book, so of course there's going to be a lot of questions unanswered, but in some cases, those questions were because things weren't explained enough, especially in terms of the world building. These factors were mainly why I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was a really enjoyable read. I liked the characters, I liked the setting, but I was questioning things a lot and I was trying to wrap my head around everything, and I don't like feeling confused. The next book I'm going to be talking about is the one I'm so proud of finally finishing. This one I listened to on audiobook. It is a 73-hour-long audiobook. I got through about 65 hours in a couple of months, and then I needed a break. That was a lot of audiobook to listen to in a short amount of time. So I gave it a break. Every few months I would read another hour or so, but in March I was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. I have 6 hours left now. I can do it. You know what? I did it. It was the complete Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The audiobook was narrated by Stephen Fry. I thought he did a fantastic job, and I think that the narration was very much a part of why I enjoyed these stories. I gave this overall about a 3.5 out of 5 stars. There were of course stories that I enjoyed more than others. Towards the end of listening to the stories, I was kind of losing interest, so I think that's also a contributing factor to keep in mind. I do know after which point I started losing interest, and it was after we meet Moriarty. I really enjoyed the BBC TV show for Sherlock, and before that the only real exposure I'd had to it were the Robert Downey Jr. movies. Aside from that, I knew about the Sherlock Holmes character, but I hadn't read any of the stories or anything like that. So seeing Moriarty as such a huge part of Sherlock's story in that TV show, I think it spoiled me a little bit, because I love Moriarty as a villain, and in the complete works of Sherlock, he's present in one story. One. So I was like, oh, is this all that we get of Moriarty? I was wanting more, so I was kind of sad. And then after that I was just like, oh, well, I was looking forward to this the entire time, and here I am just a little bit heartbroken. Read over. That really didn't ruin my experience of reading the Sherlock stories. I'm just being a little bit irrationally salty about that fact, because I was really looking forward to seeing Moriarty. But overall, really enjoyed this. Obviously there were some stories that I was left feeling kind of about. This is definitely a product of the times as well, so it does reflect a lot of kind of sexist, racist, ableist attitudes from the context in which this was written. But again, that didn't hinder my experience of the book or anything. I went into it knowing that this was written a long time ago, and I expected to see some of that stuff anyway. One more thing, so the majority of this is written from John Watson's point of view, and I was really pleasantly surprised to see a couple of stories written from Sherlock's point of view as well. That was very cool. Next I have volumes 22 through 24 of Full Metal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. I'm so close to the end of this series. I'm really excited but also kind of sad, because I've just really enjoyed reading this manga series so very much. Full Metal Alchemist follows the Elric brothers. We have Alphonse, who is a walking suit of armor, and Edward, who is the Full Metal Alchemist. He has an entirely metallic arm, an entirely metallic leg, and in this world there is alchemy, the magical kind. I've been really enjoying reading this series so very much. There are sad moments and happy moments and funny moments. It's just got everything in it, and I'll be reading the last few volumes very soon. Kind of scared, because it's really starting to amp up to a conclusion, and I don't know how it's gonna end. Whisper by Lynette Noni. It's a little hard to see the cover with the light shining on the white cover. If you guys like Shatter Me, I think you would definitely be interested in Whisper. It is quite reminiscent of that story. I think that Lynette Noni was inspired by Shatter Me. The main character is called Subject 684, or Jane Doe. She has spent 2.5 years locked up in Lengard, where she has been experimented on, and throughout this entire time she hasn't spoken a single word, because her words hold power. Perhaps a deadly power? Dun dun dun! I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I loved the fact that it was set in Australia. We got to see some iconic Sydney landmarks that I recognised, and it was great. But as for the story and the characters, I really liked Jane Doe, our main character. She has been through so much, and in this book as well she is put through a lot of stress and a lot of strain, and I just loved seeing her journey, her personal growth throughout this story. I think she does grow to be a really, really strong character. At the beginning I thought she was a strong character as well, but in a more subtle way, and it was really awesome seeing her kind of flourish throughout the story. As you can see, I have a lot of sticky notes in here. Part of the reason for this is because I was working on some discussion questions for the publisher, but I was also highlighting a lot of information about the world, the setting, and kind of the history, and I really appreciated the themes of freedom and choice and agency and finding your own voice, metaphorically and literally. American Panther by Gloria Chow. This one I listened to on audiobook and would certainly recommend listening to it. I thoroughly enjoyed the audiobook and I thoroughly enjoyed the story as well, which is why I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. In this book we follow May, who is 17 years old. She is Taiwanese American and she is just starting college. Yes, she is quite young. She excelled in her studies and is on the path to become a doctor. May's parents have a grand plan for her life, and this includes her becoming a doctor and her marrying a respectable Taiwanese man. These are two things that May really struggles with. On the one hand, she starts to develop feelings for a guy who is certainly not Taiwanese, and she also hates germs, and she's really struggling with coming to terms with the fact that she's maybe not cut out to become a doctor. And so this is about May kind of trying to find a balance with what she wants and what her parents want, especially since her parents have sacrificed so much to provide for her. Like I said, I really enjoyed this book and I really loved getting an insight into Taiwanese culture and also how that conflicts with American culture, and how May navigates having strict parents who have a very concrete idea of what her future should be. Alongside the struggles and the more serious topics the book explores, it is also very cute and very sweet as well. The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. This is another book that I listened to on audio, and it's another book that I also rated 4.5 out of 5 stars. In this we follow 17-year-old Molly, who has had 26 crushes, but she's never kissed a guy, she's never had a boyfriend. She just can't stomach the idea of rejection. Molly has a twin sister called Cassie who starts going out with a girl, and it's through Cassie's new girlfriend that Molly meets Will, who is a very attractive, hipster kind of guy. He's funny, he's flirtatious, perhaps he is boyfriend material. But there's one thing getting in the way of this, and that is Molly's co-worker Reed, who isn't the kind of guy Molly thought she'd fall for. This book also has some great diversity as well. As I mentioned, Molly's sister Cassie has a girlfriend, and they are also sperm donor children. They have 2 mothers and they are an interracial couple as well, and this is also own voices with Molly in terms of the fat representation and Molly having anxiety as well. This book was just so cute, so sweet. By the end of the book, I'd cried multiple times from joy, tears of joy. It was just so adorable and it just warmed my heart. If you're having a bad day, week, month, whatever, pick this book up. It'll make you smile at the very least. It's so cute. This is something super small, but I got really overly excited about it. So we have the love interest, Reed, and not long after we meet him, he talks about his love for Cadbury mini eggs and how it's so devastating when Easter passes and they're no longer available. You have to wait another year. I relate to that so much. Anyway, I just fell in love with all of the characters that we meet in here, and I also found myself really relating to Molly and some of her anxieties. And with this, I'm not referring to anxieties with her body weight, but more so with relationships and crushes and things like that. It was such a sweet read. I would absolutely recommend it. I'm finishing off with the 5-star gems of the month. First of all, we have A Boursin by Garth Nix. This is the 3rd book in the Old Kingdom series. It's the 2nd book where we follow Lyriel and Sam. This book was just explosive. It is jam-packed full of action from page 1 until the final page. It's a little bit stressful sometimes, but it was so worth it. One of the reasons why I enjoyed this a little bit more is because of how action-packed it was. The first 2 books in the series, we do spend a little bit more time learning about the world, about the magic systems, and getting to know the characters, which are things that I do absolutely love, but it did slow down the pace a little bit. But I thought that this book was just thriving with the fast pace that we get in here, and it's a chunky book as well. There's a lot that happens. It was so good. It was so, so good. I just love all of the characters, especially the magical animal companions. They're like my favorite thing of the story. They are perfect. It was a roller coaster ride for my heart and emotions, but I loved every second of it. The last book that I'm going to be talking about today is My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris. This is fantastic. It was an incredible, incredible book. So it's set up as a graphic diary of sorts. So the main character is drawing all of these things in her personal diary, and she depicts herself as this wolf here, a wolf detective. It's set in Chicago in the 1960s, and the main character, Karen, one of her neighbors dies, so she decides to investigate. I don't even know where to start with this book. There are so many things included in here, but it didn't feel like it was overwhelming in any way. It examines race, gender, sexuality, class, and there are some serious topics that do arise with Karen's investigations, but I thought they were done in a really interesting way. But it wasn't in a confronting way or anything. Everything that we see and learn about is from the perspective of 10-year-old Karen. So she's relaying things that people have said to her and kind of her interpretation of it. But with her being so young, she doesn't grasp absolutely everything. But from what she shows us, we're able to read between the lines. And can I just say that the illustrations are incredible. Like, absolutely incredible. I think it was Emily from Possibly Literate. She mentioned this in one of her videos, how Emile Ferris, the author and illustrator of this, was left paralyzed after being infected from a mosquito bite. So she had to teach herself how to draw again. So this is after she had been paralyzed and taught herself how to use a pen and to draw again. And I just, oh, it's absolutely incredible. I love the illustrations so much. The majority of it is done in black pen, but every so often we get splashes of color and color highlights here and there, and it's all cross-hatched, and it's just I love it so much. I'm not going to say any more about that book. I think you should pick up and read it and enjoy it all on your own. But this is everything that I read in the month of March. I hope you guys enjoyed this wrap-up video. Sorry if it's a little bit long. I had a lot to say, obviously. But I'm going to wrap up this video now. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow with my April TBR video, and I'll see you every day after that for the remainder of April. I hope you guys are looking forward to seeing my face in your subscription boxes a lot this month. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Until tomorrow's video, I will talk to you in the comments. Bye!